Hi, welcome to Career Change to Social Work. In today's video, I would like to talk about mental health counseling versus social work. Which one is right for you? Well, first off, I can tell you which one is right for you, but I'll tell you how I decided to choose social work over mental health counseling. So, my deep passion, what I really want to do at the end of this degree is to become a therapist, an independent licensed clinical social worker who can work on her own, see clients, patients on her own, and build a whole private practice. That's my big goal. But as I was thinking about it, I had different options. I had two really different options: mental health counseling, social work, actually three options, and marriage and family therapy. So these are all master's program. They're all going to take 2 years to complete full time. And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And I said, which one is better for me? I spoke to a lot of people who were, well, not a lot of people, a few people who I knew who were marriage and family therapists. I also spoke to some people who were mental health counselors who had a master's in mental health counseling. And I spoke to some people who were social workers, both clinical social workers and regular licensed master social workers. So I had a broad range of opinions, and I advice from people on which one is better. So here is how I came to my own conclusion. I'm going to do a quick pros and cons to help you choose. And I'm speaking to you because you are on this journey to decide right now which one you should pursue. And at the end of the day, only you can tell yourself which one is right for you. But I'm here to give you some ideas / opinions / things to consider before you, as you make your decision, if you know what I mean. Okay, so here goes. Mental health counselors, they cannot, depending on your state, but I know in my state, mental health counselors can't work independently. They always have to be a part of a group practice, or they have to be under they're independent, but they have to be a part of a practice. They can't just open their own private practice and work on their own. So that's something to consider. So if you're not the kind of person who likes to be an employee of someone for the rest of your life, if having your own independence is something you've always dreamt of, having your own business is something you've always dreamt of, you have to take that into consideration, because if as a mental health counselor, you cannot work on your own independently, your own private practice. You always have to be a part of a group, part of somebody else's practice. Mental health counselors, the pay for mental health counselors and clinical social worker, there's a difference. They don't make as much as social workers do. And so when I was making my decision on which one was better for me, I have to put that into consideration as well. You know, we're both going to have similar caseloads and similar kind of patients to deal with if we're going into counseling and therapy. But I didn't want to get paid less than a social worker would. Like, we should be paid comparably, but that's not how it works. You know, you're going to make a little bit less. The third thing to consider is that mental health counselors don't have the option of working in different settings, like a lot of different settings. It's not as broad as social work is. And I'm going to explain. Social work is a very, very, very broad field. That means you can, when you get tired of being a therapist, you can work in a hospital as a medical social worker. You can work in organization, non-profit organization as a case manager and a social worker, doing many, many things for non-profits. You can work in the courts. You can work in the prison. doing therapy, counseling, case management, things like that for prisons. So in the court system, prisons, you can work in a school as a school social worker. And I'm sure that I don't know all the other places that you could work. I know policy. You can also make policy decisions if you work with a politician and work alongside them to help create policies for states and cities and local government. So that's a big deal, influencing decisions that politicians make. And that's something to consider. Mental health counselors just do one thing. They're just mental health counselors. They just treat people's mental health by doing counseling, and that's it. There's no diversity in what they can do. So if you're the kind of person that get burned out easily, you might want to pick a career where it's easy to meander into different sectors, different things within the umbrella of one broad title of social work, rather than, getting burned out with mental health counseling, and then just like what do I do now? I don't want to do this anymore. Don't pigeonhole yourself in a degree. That was the problem I had with my first career as a teacher. I felt like it was very pigeonholed. You can just be a teacher, and especially when you're a content teacher, not a special ed teacher. Like I had one content, biology, and I could only teach science, and that was it. So I felt very pigeonholed, and if I wanted to switch and get out of the classroom, I didn't feel like I had many options besides, going to become a coach in central office, which is very hard to find, a job as a coach, unless you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And so that was probably not going to happen for me. And so it was either being a coach or an assistant principal, and eventually a principal, which I didn't want to do. I didn't want to get into administration, too many craziness going on there. That was not my passion. So I felt like I was stuck as a teacher, and I didn't have anywhere else to go with that. That would still give me enough money to survive and make a good living. It's a good thing I felt that way, because being a therapist was always my dream, and now I get to do it as a second chance career, Anyway, back to the topic. Mental health counseling or social work? Which one is which? Which one should you do? I gave you all the options so far. If treating people's mental health is really your passion and you don't see yourself going into different avenues and in social work, like going into different fields of social work, then stick with mental health counseling. It is straightforward, probably easier to do than social work, because social work degree required 900 hours of field placement or internships, and mental health counseling usually require 500 to 600 hours, and then they get their initial certification right after graduating without taking any exam. I'm sure it's different in different states, but I feel like that's an easier avenue than finishing a master's in social work and then taking an exam and doing 900 hours of internship for a master's and more exams, three year supervision, another exam to be able to get anywhere, to get to the top pay of clinical social worker. Anyway, so that was my 2 cents. I also consider marriage and family therapy, which is another master's degree that you can do that involves counseling couples, different kinds of relationship, and also counseling family too. It's not just marriage and family. The F is there. It's family, different kinds of couples and partnerships. If that is something that you're passionate about, you really want to do something like that, so that would work for you. But I am not sure if marriage and family therapists can work independently. I'm not sure. I didn't go deep into that. I also felt like that was a pigeonhole degree. And another thing too, Social workers who are licensed clinical social workers or licensed master social workers, they can do everything that mental health counselors and marriage and family counselors, all of them. So I can be a couples counselor, I can be a family counselor as a social worker. So I didn't feel like it was necessary to get this degree that will pigeonhole me into one concentration when I could get this degree that I can use to do all the other things and so much more if I wanted to. You know, it makes me feel like I have some kind of freedom to do what I want, and I have more control over what I can do with my degree. It's not just something that would make me feel stuck, because I have a tendency of feeling stuck in careers. Anyway, hence the career change. I hope that I have explained as best that I could about to help you decide on which path to follow. Once again, what you decide is an individual choice. It's based on your past, your history, your likes, your dislikes, and what you want to do in your future as a career, with your career change. Nobody can tell you ultimately which path to follow. You have to make that decision for yourself. But I hope that I've given you some food for thought that you can use in your journey of career change. So if you liked this video, please leave me a comment below telling me which part of the video you like the best, what you feel about licensed marriage and family therapists, licensed mental health counselors, or social workers. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear your comments, your opinions. That really helps the algorithm to boost the videos. So I want to be able to make more of this kinds of videos. So like the video, give it a heart, thumbs up, whatever, or give a comment below. And I will see you in my next one. You can also tell me what topics you want me to talk about, and I will be glad to release more videos.